Is Ms. Jakowski up next?
Yes.
I think we're ready for the jury.
Yes, Your Honor.
There's no light. Be seated, please. Our next witness.
Ellen Jakowski.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Be seated.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Speak a little louder, I'm having trouble hearing you already.
Okay.
Can you state your name and spell your last name if you would?
Ellen Bozarth Jakowski, Jackowski.
And Ms. Jakowski, where do you currently live? What
Everett, Washington.
And what do you do for a living?
End user IT support.
I'm sorry, say that again?
End user IT support.
What does that mean exactly?
I help people with their computer problems.
And do you work for a particular company or are you a freelance?
I work for Gray & Osborne Engineering Consultants.
And how long have you done that type of work?
3.5 years. Or 2.5 years. If I can do my math. Yeah, 3.
I want to direct your attention now to an individual and ask if you knew someone named Nicole Pietz.
I did.
What time period did you know Nicole?
From March 2005 until her death.
And how is it that you met Nicole?
We both lived in the same apartment community, and we both got puppies within the same weekend.
Where was that you were living? What apartment complex?
Bristol Farms in Bothell, Washington.
Now, was she already living there when you moved in, or vice versa?
She was already living there when we moved there.
And did she live by herself or with someone?
No, she lived with her husband,
And what was his name?
David Pietz.
And did you meet both of them at the same time, or did you meet Nicole first?
We met them roughly the same time.
And you keep referring to we. Were you also living with someone?
Yes, my husband,
And what's his name?
Jason Jakowski.
At the time you met the Pietzes, were you married yet?
Yes, we were. Yeah, we were.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yes, because we had gotten married February 2005, and we met in March.
And you said that you both got dogs at the same time?
Yes.
How is it that caused you to meet the Pietzes?
Frequent potty breaks, the dogs would go out, and then we met and we started playing. The dogs used to play together.
Can you describe your relationship with Nicole? And by that I mean, did you consider her a close friend, an acquaintance? How would you describe it?
Yes. Since we had both, my husband and I had recently moved to the state, Nikki was one of my first and best friends since I moved there.
And once you sort of began your friendship, how often do you think you would see each other, you and Nicole?
When we lived in the same community several times a week.
Was that usually with the dogs or separate?
Yeah, usually with the dogs, sometimes when we were running in and out of the apartments.
How often did you see, or did you get together with Nicole and her husband as a couple?
Not as frequently. David had some varying schedules, so not just a 9-to-5 job. So since I wasn't working, I would get to see Nikki more in the morning hours and in the evening hours, and then got to see David on occasion too with Nikki.
How often do you think, and let's just talk about 2005 after you first met, how often do you think you would see David? Either with Nicole or separate?
Again, maybe once a week when he was running in and out with his schedule, and then, kind of in the hallways, because we lived in the same building, so same walkway, we'd say hi, and if I don't remember specifics.
How often do you think during 2005 you guys would go out as couples, where all four of you would get together?
We only went out once or twice, I think, as a couple.
Is David here in this courtroom today?
Yes, he's sitting with a maroon shirt at the defendant's table.
And we'll stipulate that David Pietz is here or with us at council table.
Did you consider yourself closer to Nicole than David?
To Nicole, yes.
Aside from getting together at the apartment with Nicole, did you and Nicole ever go out together and do things separate from that?
Yes, either going to a dog park or taking a walk or going shopping.
Did you talk to her on the phone in addition to seeing her?
Yes.
How often do you think you spoke on the phone?
Since I saw her on frequently, maybe once or twice a week.
Were you familiar with whether Nicole wore wedding rings?
Yes.
Did you have any knowledge of whether she cleaned them?
Yes.
How did you have knowledge of that?
She happened to show me her wedding cleaner in a red jar, and that's how I ended up buying the same cleaner.
And where was it that jar was, or where did she show you?
I think she had it in her bathroom.
Was it your understanding she would use that for her wedding rings?
Yes.
Did you ever notice her to wear any particular type of necklace?
Yes, she wore a silver cross. I think it was silver, maybe white gold.
And what was your understanding of, was there any significance to that?
Yes, it was closely tied to her sobriety, and it kind of, let's say, grounded her.
I'm going to show you what's been previously admitted as State's Exhibit 1. Can you take a look at that? And is that the crossed necklace you recall her wearing?
Yes.
Now, you indicated that that was closely tied to her sobriety. Were you aware of her addiction history?
Yes.
And was that something that she would openly talk to you about?
Yeah, we talked about it, but not in full confidential detail, but I knew of her history in general. Mm-hmm.
And did it seem important to her life?
Oh, I knew it was.
In the time period before Nicole disappeared and was later found dead, did you become aware of a health issue she was having?
Yes, I believe she had a herniated disc in her lower back.
And is that something, again, that you'd had discussions with her about?
Yes.
Were you aware of whether she had to start taking some kind of pain pill for that back injury?
Yes.
Did you ever have anything to do with that more specifically, with the pain pills?
Yes, I was there when we went to the Rite Aid to pick up her first prescription.
Or you just happened to be with her, or what was the occasion for that?
I think we're out running errands.
And what did she do with that prescription when she picked it up from the Rite Aid?
She was worried about having it, and so we stored it at our house until her husband could pick it up after work.
So that same day you kept it?
Yes.
And then was it that same day that you turned it back over to either her or her husband?
Yes, later that evening, yes.
And do you recall, did you give it back to her or to her husband?
I believe to her husband.
did you ever observe yourself personally that she appeared to have any issues with taking those pills?
Not to my knowledge.
It's a
no.
lifestyle.
Were you familiar with the vehicles that Nicole and the defendant drove?
Yes, a green Xterra and a silver VW Jetta.
And if you know, was either of those cars more associated with one of them or the other?
Initially, the Xterra was the car that I most frequently was with her in because of the dogs, and it had more space for 50-pound plus dogs.
All right,
And
we're
then
back in
only once
session.
was I ever in the Jetta, and that was going to the laundry or the laundromat to pick up a pressed shirt or something like that.
And do you know, and if you don't, it's okay, do you know if they both drove both cars or not?
Yeah, they both drove both cars.
At some point, did you become aware that Nicole was missing?
Yes.
Can you just sort of explain how you first learned that?
We were supposed to meet together at our apartment for dinner, and she never showed up to that meeting.
And do you know what, first of all, had you planned this ahead of time?
Yes, we had.
Had you talked to her about it ahead of time?
Yes.
Do you know when you had last talked to her about it?
I believe Wednesday, the prior to her disappearance.
Mr. Kowski, I'm going to show you what's been previously admitted State Exhibit 2, a calendar of January 2006. Just looking at this, does it help you indicate dates? What day were you supposed to have dinner?
The Saturday, the 28th.
And you said you thought you last spoke to her on?
The 25th.
Okay, Wednesday the 25th?
Yes.
And was that the first time you had made the plans, or had you already talked about them before that?
I don't remember if it was kind of a nebulous idea before then, but we were to solidify the get-together on that Wednesday.
Tell me what the plans were. What were the plans to be for that night?
She was going to bring their dog Boomer over to our house to let the dogs get the wiggles out, and then we were going to, the four of us, we were going to go out for dinner.
And I should clarify, at the time that this dinner date was set up, were Nicole and her husband still living in the same apartment complex as you guys in Bothell?
No, they were living in Linwood, Washington.
Do you know how long they had lived there at this time?
They moved in I want to say the week after Thanksgiving.
In 2005?
Yes.
So I'm sorry, on this night of Saturday, the plan was they would come to your Bothell apartment?
Yes.
Were this planned for them to come together or separate?
Dave was going to come directly from work, and Nikki was going to bring Boomer over at an earlier time.
And then were you going to go out or eat at your apartment?
I think we were going to go out.
Was there a specific time set by which you expected Nicole and or her husband to come?
Around 6.
So what happened?
Dave ended up coming over from work about 5:15 or so, but Nikki didn't show up.
Had you talked to Nikki at all that day?
No, I was not able to reach her.
You had tried to call her?
I did.
How many times do you think you tried to call her that day?
2 times.
And that's that Saturday?
Yes.
Why were you trying to reach her?
At noon, I figured she'd be done with her morning appointments, so I was just going to invite her to go shopping because we were headed out to do that. And then I hadn't heard from her by the afternoon, so I was just trying to confirm plans for playing and whatnot.
Now, you said the defendant showed up about 5:15.
I believe.
Had you talked to him on the phone before that?
I don't recall.
And Nicole was not there?
Correct.
What happened at that point?
We were wondering if we discussed whether he was able to get in touch with her. We hadn't, and we thought maybe she was waiting back at the apartment. Maybe her phone battery was dead, and Boomer wasn't there. So David went back to the apartment to check in on Boomer and see if Nikki was at the apartment.
And so do you know how long, you said he arrived at your place about 5:15?
I believe so, yes.
Do you have any idea how long he was there before he left to go back to his place?
I think 30 minutes or so.
Did he tell you whether he'd been trying to reach Nikki at all that day as well?
I don't recall.
Now, when you called her those times during the day to check in, did you leave voicemails?
I believe so.
Was she usually pretty good about returning your voicemail?
Yes.
So you said he came over, he left, and went to his house. What happened then when he left your place?
We got a call from David after he had reached the apartment.
Was that after 6? Any idea what time that was?
I don't recall the exact time.
What did he say?
Nikki was not at the apartment, but Boomer was. And at that point, we volunteered to pick up dinner and come over and try and figure out what was going on.
And do you recall, was he giving you any other information on the phone before he decided to come over, once he was at the apartment?
Yes, he said that he had found Nikki's pill bottle, and it was empty.
What pill bottle did you understand him to be referring to?
Her prescriptions,
The one that you helped her get at Rite Aid?
yes.
Now, did you get the impression, or could you tell whether he was discovering that as he was on the phone, or was he just telling you that?
I believe he was discovering it.
Did he say anything in relation to that, other than I found her pill bottle?
That the prescription had been filled, I believe, around the 26th, and that there were 56 pills in the bottle, or I believe 56 pills were supposed to be in the bottle.
And he said it was empty.
I believe so, yes.
When you said he called you on this phone call, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
And was that one of the first things he said, or where in the conversation did that come up?
I don't remember the conversation in full.
And do you know why he went into the bathroom? Did he tell you that?
No.
After this phone call, I think you already said you decided to go over there. So tell me
Yes.
what happened then.
So we picked up some fast food on the way in case she was just running late and her battery was dead. And we showed up at the apartment, food in hand, and I asked David to show me, say, can you show me the pill bottle? And so we went into their master bathroom, and I saw the empty pill bottle myself.
So tell me if you can describe, you were familiar with their condominium layout?
Yes.
Can you describe where this bathroom is in the condominium?
Yes. So there's an entryway, and you go around the corner to the right for the main hallway, and which all the other rooms of the house were branched off. And so as you pass the laundry on the left, in the back was a guest room, and in the back, but on the left, was their master
And was
bedroom.
this particular bathroom connected to their master bedroom?
Yes, it was off of the master bedroom.
And did he show you the pill bottle?
Yes,
Where was it when he showed it to you?
I believe on the counter.
Why did you want to see the bottle?
Just to see, I couldn't believe that it was empty. I wanted to confirm the information for myself.
Was there anything else in the bathroom that you noted or he noted when he took you in there?
Yes, her wedding rings were in the thread cleaner.
Was that the same cleaner she had showed you that you ended up buying later?
The same brand, yes.
And was that a surprise to you to see the wedding rings there?
Yes.
Did he say anything about that?
No, he didn't, not that I recall.
At this point, you brought food over. Do you have any idea what time of the evening it is now?
I do not recall exactly what time it was.
What was his demeanor like at that point?
Tired, a little nervous.
Do you recall talking to police about and using the words freaking out a little?
Yes, I recall that from my statement.
And was that a description you were giving about him?
I believe so, yes.
What did you mean by that, if you recall?
I don't recall the context of it.
Was he visibly upset or just nervous, as you said?
I can't remember the expressions.
At that point, was anybody still trying to call Nicole on the phone?
Don't remember.
Do you know if you tried to call her again at all that night after she hadn't showed up at your apartment?
Maybe once after we left.
When you went through the bedroom, into the bathroom where he showed you the pill bottle, was there anything else you noted that looked unusual or different to you in the bedroom?
Just that there's a messy comforter on the bed.
Did that stand out to you?
It just didn't look like to me how I fold down the comforter. It looked rumpled and kind of hard to describe. It wasn't just like a fold down each side, on each side of the bed.
Like crumpled up, like it had been?
Yeah, more like crumpled up.
And do you recall, could you tell if it had been slept in, or is there anything that gave you an indication of anything regarding that?
I assumed it had been slept in.
Had you ever had occasion to be in that bedroom and know how it normally looked or not?
Not in their new place, no.
How about in their old place? How did they normally use the bed?
I don't recall. I had been there to help them move, but I don't remember what it looked like then.
And how about the bathroom? Other than the pill bottle and you noticed the wedding ring and the cleaner, did that look normal? Or
Yeah, it looked normal.
do you recall if you ever went into the garage area that they had?
I don't remember.
So it sounds like you don't have a memory of doing it.
I don't.
Okay. Did the defendant tell you when he had last seen Nicole?
I don't remember.
Do you remember talking to police about that?
Yes.
Did you give a couple of different statements in this case to police?
2.
I'm going to show you. Let me get back to that because I can't find it right now. Was your understanding of what day he'd last seen her?
He saw her when he had come home from work the night before.
Okay. And did he tell you whether she was awake or asleep?
I don't recall.
And your understanding was he had not seen her on the 28th at all?
No, not on that Saturday.
Did you guys eat the food that you brought over?
I think I probably picked at it, but yes, we managed to dent it.
Did the defendant eat as well?
I believe so, yes.
How long were you and your husband at Nicole in the defendant's apartment?
I believe we left about 8:30,
How long do you think you've been there then from when you brought the food over?
probably hour and a half.
During that time period, were you just talking about where she might be? What was going on?
Yeah, wondering what the next steps were, whether he should call 911.
And did you or your husband make a recommendation about that?
I don't recall.
Did you talk about calling 911 at least? Did the topic come up?
I believe so, yes.
And do you recall if he called 911 while you were there?
I do not believe that was the case, no.
Now, what was he like during that additional time you were there? How was he acting, his demeanor?
I knew he was tired when we'd seen him at our apartment, and he continued to be tired when we were at his apartment.
How tired was he? I mean, can you describe it?
It perceived to me that he had had a long day at work. He was probably, I had thought that he had been at an early shift and worked a long day.
Was he actually falling asleep or almost falling asleep when you were there?
Yes, he was.
Did he ever fall asleep?
I believe so, yes, and that's when we decided we should head out.
So at that point, no additional calls had been made to 911 or anyone else while you were there?
No.
And what was your plan? Were you going to check in with him again?
Yes, we had things to do the next morning, but yes, we had planned to check in with him.
Do you know, did he ever tell you if he did indeed call 911 at some point?
I believe we talked at some point the following afternoon.
And did he say whether he had called 911?
Yes, he had just filed a report.
So that would have been the Sunday the 29th that you
Yes.
next talked to him?
Yes.
Do you remember if you called him or he called you?
I don't remember who initiated the phone call.
And did he have any more information about Nicole?
No, I don't believe he did.
Did you receive any email communications from him?
Yes.
What was that?
Just that Nikki was, I believe the context was Nikki was missing, and they were trying to figure out where to look for her.
And did that go to more people than just you?
I believe so, yes.
And do you know when that came to you?
I don't remember the exact time.
Was it that same weekend or later?
I believe it was either the Sunday or the Monday.
Now, you indicated that you think you last spoke to Nicole on Wednesday, the 25th?
Yes.
And did you seem to be doing okay with her back issues from what you could tell?
Yes, she had told me that she was feeling better.
Now, you took a trip at some point around then, is that right?
Yes.
Where was that and when was that?
We left for our public wedding in Las Vegas on, I believe, the Thursday after her disappearance.
Okay, so,
That would be February
okay. So February, probably
the 2nd.
2nd, okay.
States Exhibit 13,
Mr. Kowski, I'm going to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 13. Just based on your memory, does this appear to be the right accuracy in terms of the days and the dates for February 2006?
Yes, because Super Bowl Sunday was the 5th, and we got married on the 4th.
Okay. Now, for demonstrative purposes, I would offer Exhibit 13 at this time.
No objection for demonstrative purposes.
So let me just once again, now that we have this calendar, you left town, you believe, Thursday the 2nd?
Yes.
And at that point, other than Sunday afternoon, had you had any other communication by phone or in person with the defendant?
I don't remember.
Had you heard from Nicole?
No.
And then you said you got married on the 4th?
Yes.
And when did you return to town?
I believe we came back into town about the 6th.
Okay. And at some point, did you become aware that Nicole had been found dead?
Yes.
How did you become aware of that?
I believe it was kind of a combination of through a friend and also through local websites from my that I was monitoring for my work.
Had you had any contact about Nicole or with anybody connected to her during the time you were in Las Vegas for your wedding?
I was offline while I was in Vegas.
So you think you learned around that Monday or Tuesday?
That would be reasonable, yes.
Did you make any contact with the defendant upon learning that information?
I don't believe so, no.
Did you attend Nicole's funeral?
I did.
And did you stay in contact with the defendant after the funeral or not?
Just a handful of times.
Thank you, Mr. Kowski. I don't have any other questions for you right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Kowski. You testified on direct examination that you don't recall if you looked in the garage.
I do not remember that.
Okay.
I know they had a carport and a garage, but I don't physically remember looking.
Okay. Do you remember being interviewed by a detective, two detectives actually, back in 2006? It would have been, I guess, February 8th, 2006?
Yes.
Okay, and that was just 2 days after Nicole was found dead?
Yes.
Defendant's Exhibit 14.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Mr. Kowski, I'm handing you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 14.
Yes.
And does that look like it's a transcript of your 2006 interview with Detectives Kathy Decker and Detective Jesse Anderson?
Yes,
This was actually a joint interview with you and your husband,
that is correct.
Jason, correct?
Yes.
And I'm going to direct you to page 16 of that.
Okay.
At the very bottom of page 16, your last answer, where it says witness colon and then there's an answer. If you could read that and let me know if that refreshes your recollection as to whether or not you looked in the garage at the Pietz condo.
Yes, I'll be happy to read that. It says, should I repeat it out
Sure.
loud? Okay.
Does that refresh your recollection as to what you did with the
Yes.
garage?
Yes, we did look in the garage to see if her car was there.
Okay. And this was on Saturday, January 28th.
Yes.
And this was you and Jason and David after the three of you had gone back to the condo, correct?
Correct.
And you don't remember anything about David Pietz trying to keep you or Jason from looking in the garage,
I
correct?
I don't think so.
You discussed on direct examination how you were present for Nicole getting some prescription pain pills from the pharmacy.
Yes.
And you talked about how you kept them and then you gave them to Mr. Pietz
Yes.
so Nicole wouldn't have them.
Yes.
That wasn't just 2 days before Nicole went missing.
No, this was her first prescription for that she'd received from the doctor for her back.
Her first prescription,
At the beginning of her back pain.
her more kind of recent back pain within,
Yes.
within the past few months.
Yes.
Okay. And so that was a couple of months prior.
Yes.
And you don't know what the circumstances were in terms of her picking up that prescription on January 26th, do you?
No, I have no knowledge of that.
And you don't know who had possession or custody of those pills between January 26th and January 28th?
No, I do not.
And you don't know specifically what the arrangements were for who was going to hold on to them during that time period?
Correct.
And Nicole and David, their dog was a golden retriever, is that
Yes,
correct?
Boomer.
And he was a relatively big dog?
Yes.
Okay. And Nicole had actually hurt her back picking him up to put him in the SUV, is that right?
I don't remember right now how she injured her back.
Okay. Did Nicole ever express frustration to you that the medical professionals couldn't figure out what was going on with her back?
Yes, she was frustrated. She had had one MRI, a steroid injection before the MRI, and was going to be going in for a second MRI.
You testified on direct examination that there was a dinner meeting time of about 6 o'clock, correct?
Yes.
But wasn't the plan that Nicole was going to come over a little bit earlier to let the dogs play?
Yes.
So you weren't waiting until 6 p.m. to wait for Nicole to walk in the door?
No, she was going to be coming up earlier, and then David was expected at a later time.
Okay. So at the time that David got there at about 5:15, it was already a little bit concerning that
Yes.
she hadn't shown up. When you got to the condo, after David had already gone to the condo, and then you and Jason followed, you asked to go see the pills, and David took you immediately back to the bathroom, correct?
Yes.
He wasn't hesitant about taking you into the master bedroom or the master bathroom.
Not that I recall, no.
And did you go in some of the other rooms in the condo?
I don't remember.
You don't recall David being hesitant to take you to any particular area of the
I
condo?
don't recall him.
You testified on direct examination that you don't remember whether or not David made any phone calls to Nicole. Is that correct?
That is correct. I don't recall that today.
Okay. Do you remember being interviewed by detectives in March of 2012?
Yes.
That would be a Detective Sampson who interviewed you then?
Yes.
And it's exhibit 15, isn't it?
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Mr. Kowski, I'm handing you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 15.
Mm-hmm.
Does that look like a transcript of your interview in 2012 with Detective Sampson?
Yes.
If you could turn to page 28, please.
I believe pages 17 through 32 are missing.
Okay. Let's see if I have another copy here. I do. Sure. Why don't we just... Page 28. And Your Honor, for the record, I'm substituting a full copy of the 2012 interview as a new Exhibit 15. So, Mr. Kowski, I've handed you the new Exhibit 15, which does have a page 28 in it. And are you at page 28?
Yes, I am.
If you could start reading, say, halfway down the page, and read the second half of that, and then let me know whether that refreshes your recollection as to whether or not David tried making any phone calls to Nicole during the time you were at the condo.
Okay. And I thought that maybe once he had tried to call her phone, but we had. I remember we talked about, should we do a missing persons report?
Okay. So having reviewed this, do you remember that David did maybe try to call her once?
He may have, yes.
Well, isn't that what you said, though?
Yes, that's what I said,
You
yes.
wouldn't have said that if he
Oh,
had.
I didn't, yeah. If I didn't think he had at some point, yes.
Okay. When you left the Pietz condo at the end of the night, didn't you suggest to David that if he hadn't heard from Nikki by midnight that he should call the police?
Yes.
And do you remember about what time you left?
We left at 8:30.
Okay. Your Honor, if I may have a moment. I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
You read around.
Mr. Kelsey, when you left the defendant that night, did you hear ranting or worry?
I don't recall.
I don't have anything else, thank you.
You may step down. Or you, please.
Thank you. The state calls Bill Beasley.
Sorry, who's the next one?
Bill Beasley.
Do you swear or affirm your testimony in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Be seated.
William L. Binkley, Binkley.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a deputy sheriff with Snohomish County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been with Snohomish County?
Approximately 16 years.
And before that, did you also work in law enforcement?
Yes.
And what did you do?
I was a police officer with the city of Snohomish.
And before that, did you work in law enforcement?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do?
I was a military police officer for 3 years.
What are your duties currently?
Patrol, graveyard, North Precinct.
So as a patrol officer, do you respond to 911 calls?
Yes, ma'am.
And how is it that you get notice of a 911 call coming in? Where do those originate from?
Dispatched by radio or through our computer system.
Okay, so they let you know and then you respond to the
Yes, ma'am.
person? I'm going to direct your attention to a call that came in on January 28th, 2006 from a gentleman named Martin David Pietz. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And would that have been around 10:20 p.m. that night?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you remember what the complaint was?
Yes.
And what was that?
It was a missing person report.
There's been a stipulation between council as to the foundation for the tape, the 911 tape on State's Exhibit 16. So we'd offer it at this time.
Good.
And may we have permission to play?
You're going to pause and have a break, you're going to pause and just let us sit here?
We do need a brief break because we can't, I'm not sure why it's not going, so
Is that a CD or DVD?
it's a CD.
All right. I think I've got the old style CD player back there.
If you want to try that, you can try it.
We can try it and do it the old fashioned way.
It may not play on that, but we
Wait,
can try it.
we can try it.
If I still have it.
And I'll-
received relating to a missing person report on 1/29/2006 at 15415 Elizabeth Avenue West, number St. Charles 106. This first call on the 28th at approximately 22:04 hours. This tape has been requested by Snohomish County Sheriff's Office, and the case number is SO062624. Now, one by the camera, please. Oh, I think I might have to do first. Okay, then I can the person missing from? 15415. 36 Avenue West. If you want this. How long have they been missing? Well, last time I spoke to her was actually last night around midnight. I got home. How old is she? 32. Does she have any medical problems with putting her life in immediate danger? No. How can I do it? My name is Martin Keith. How do you spell last name? P-I-E-E-Z. And what's the phone number? Go with it. 369. 6034. Okay, I'd like to get the applicant. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So Officer Binkley, that's the dispatch that happened. What did you do when you were dispatched to respond to that call?
I called Mr. Pietz by phone.
And did you talk to him?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
He said that when he arrived home in the morning, his wife was asleep, and when he woke up, she was gone.
And did he say anything else?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said she left the wedding ring behind, some of her medication was missing, her purse was missing, and her car was also gone.
Did he make any reference to drug issues?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said he was afraid that she may be relapsing into medication abuse.
Did he say anything about worrying about suicide?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said that there was no indication that she was suicidal.
Did he say anything about her plans on Saturday the 28th? What she had planned to do that morning?
She missed, according to him, a meeting with her drug counselor.
Did you ask him whether they had argued that night?
Yes.
And what did he say?
Initially, he said no.
Okay, and then did he expand on that?
Later, yes.
What did he say?
He said possibly. I don't recall exactly his words.
Now, in your the report that you filed on this, it indicates that he said there was no argument. So could you sort of clarify that, the initial statement versus the later statement, and why that's not in your report?
Yes, the latter remark was very vague, and I didn't feel that it warranted being documented.
Okay, and that was the remark about they'd had some sort of disagreement?
Correct.
Now, what's the policy with regard to adults who go missing?
There's three categories. One is endangered, the other is involuntary, and the third is due to catastrophe.
Okay. And what's the difference in terms of how they're treated?
None. It all involves a report which is forwarded to our records that enters that information.
Okay. And are there official missing persons reports ever taken?
Yes.
Separate from this, and in what situation would that happen?
If he demanded or it met one of the criteria where there was an indication the person was endangered or the situation indicated it was involuntary.
Okay. Now, you heard his voice on the 911 tape. Can you tell us about the demeanor, the way he was talking when he was interacting with you?
He sounded calm.
Okay. Similar to on that tape?
Yes.
Did he ever ask to meet with you in person?
No.
If he had asked, would you have met with him in person?
Yes.
If an adult disappears are they considered to have the right to do that? Is that one of the things that's taken into consideration?
Yes,
Okay, with regard to how those reports are treated?
correct.
I have nothing else. Thank you.
Cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Deputy Binkley, is it your testimony today that Mr. Pietz did say that he had had an argument with his wife, Nicole, prior to her
Yes.
leaving?
Yes,
Okay. You wrote a report in this case, didn't you?
yes.
Yeah, this mark, please.
Defendant's Exhibit 17.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Deputy Binkley, I'm handing you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 17. Do you recognize that?
Yes,
And is that the report that you wrote related to your contact with Mr. Pietz?
yes, sir.
Now, the date on this report says January 29, 2006.
Correct.
And do you agree that you wrote this report sometime in the winter of 2006?
I don't recall when I wrote it.
Okay. Well, you didn't write it recently.
Correct,
Okay. Wrote it close in time to the event?
correct.
Okay. And would you agree that your memory regarding your contact with Mr. Pietz was better in the winter of 2006 than it is today?
Correct.
All right. Now, the purpose of writing a police report is to document your contact with persons in the community, correct?
Correct.
And you know how important it is to include all of the relevant information in your police reports, correct?
Correct.
It's important to be accurate.
Yes.
It's important to be complete.
Yes.
Is that right? Because you know that police reports are used in the judicial system.
Correct.
They're used by lawyers. Is that right?
Yes.
They're used by judges.
Yes.
So when you write a report, you endeavor to be as accurate and complete as possible. Is that right?
Correct.
And you're responsible for mistakes in reports as well.
Absolutely.
You could be subject to disciplinary action. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, if you look at your report, about 2/3 of the way down, well, first of all, let me back up a second. You didn't write anything in your report about Mr. Pietz and his wife having an argument.
Correct.
In fact, you wrote just the opposite, didn't you?
Yes.
If you look at your report about 2/3 of the way down, there's a paragraph there. Do you have it in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Okay. About 2/3 of the way down, you write, Martin said his wife was upset about their dog having cancer, period. He said they didn't have any arguments prior to her leaving. Isn't that what you wrote in the report?
Correct.
But now you're telling us that, in fact, he did tell you that they had an argument before she left, or before she disappeared.
Yes.
Isn't that just the opposite of what you wrote in your report?
Yes, it is.
Wouldn't anyone reading your report come away with it with the understanding that there wasn't an argument?
Correct.
You never corrected your report with respect to this fact.
No, I did not.
You never told any of the detectives about this, did you?
No, I did not.
When exactly did you write your report?
I don't recall the exact date, but it was when I was requested to by, I believe, a sergeant with the Major Crimes Unit of the Sheriff's Office.
Right. Because you didn't actually write your report on the 28th or the 29th, did you?
Correct.
Even though the date on your follow-up report says January 29, 2006.
Yes.
Is there another date on here that would indicate when you wrote it?
No, sir.
So from reading your report, someone would come away with the understanding that you wrote it on the 29th
Yes.
of 2006, correct?
Correct.
Weren't you asked by Detective Tom Ditto to write a follow-up report regarding your contact with Mr. Pietz after this became a death investigation?
I don't recall exactly who requested it, but yes,
It was after Nicole was found dead, wasn't it?
correct.
And that was about 10 days after your contact with Mr. Pietz on January 28th, correct?
Correct.
And nowhere in your report do you indicate that you wrote this 10 days afterwards in response to a request from a detective.
Correct.
Your contact with Mr. Pietz was over the phone, as you indicated, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Pietz was the one who volunteered the information to you about the wedding ring still being at the condo, correct?
Yes.
You didn't know anything about a wedding ring, did you? Until he told you about this?
Correct.
You weren't in the bathroom with him seeing the wedding ring?
No.
Okay. Your Honor, if I may have a moment. You only spoke with David Pietz once on the phone.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
So, Officer Binkley, you were asked to write this report after this became a death investigation. Right. At the time that you took the initial statement, in the course of your career, have you taken a lot of missing person reports?
Yes.
How many would you guess, if you had to guess?
Hundreds.
Based on the defendant's demeanor and what he told you about his concerns about relapse, was there anything at that time that led you to think that this was suspicious in some way?
No.
Was there anything at that time about his downplay of the argument that made you think it needed to go into your report, given that?
No.
I have nothing further, thank you.
Deputy Binkley, you could have put nothing in the report about the argument, correct?
No.
Well, you're the one writing the report, correct?
Correct.
And you claim now that Mr. Pietz was downplaying an argument. You could have put nothing about it in the report, correct?
That he didn't have an argument, or that he did have an
Well, you
argument?
could have left it out completely. If he was kind of downplaying it and you didn't think it was all that important to put in, you could have just left it out, right?
That's what I did.
Well, no, you didn't do that, actually. You wrote just the opposite, which was that they didn't have an argument.
Correct.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
You may step down.
Thank you, sir.
Leave that, please. You want a break now, or?
Sure.
Break now?
We can.
How long is the next witness?
Pretty short.
Go ahead and call the next witness. Come forward, sir. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm your testimony in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
Be seated.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Can you state your full name and spell your last name, please?
Sure, it's Brian Fenske, and the last name is Fenske.
And what do you currently do for a living?
Full-time police officer for the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office.
And first of all, how long have you been with Snohomish County Sheriffs?
October of 1998.
Any law enforcement prior to Snohomish County?
Yes, I worked for the city of Lake Forest Park as a full-time police officer from January 96 until I lateraled in October of 98.
And anything else in law enforcement related prior to that?
No.
What are your current duties with Snohomish County?
I'm a sergeant in our contract city of Snohomish.
And I want to take you back to January of 2006. What were your duties at that time with Snohomish County?
I was a patrol deputy, specifically a master patrol deputy, but I worked in the field handling calls.
What does a master patrol deputy mean?
Basically, when there's not a sergeant available, I assume the responsibilities and decision-making of the sergeant. It's a part-time supervisor position.
And was part of your job back in January of 06 to respond to 911 calls?
It was.
I want to direct your attention to a response at the end of January. Did you respond to a call involving a potential missing person, Nicole Pietz?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember the date right now that you responded to that?
January 29th of 2006.
And do you know how you learned of that call?
I was dispatched to it.
And was it your understanding that that was as a result of a 911 call?
That is my understanding.
And do you remember about what time of day you were dispatched?
Around 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Does your report have your exact time on it?
Yes, it does.
Would that help you to refresh your memory on that?
It would.
Can I mark this, please?
States Exhibit 18 at the
Sergeant, I'm handing you States Exhibit 18. Is this the report that you wrote in this matter?
Yes, it is.
And take a moment to look at that and tell me if it refreshes your memory as to what time you actually got dispatched to that call.
I was dispatched at 15:11, which is 3:11 in the afternoon.
And specifically, where did you respond to?
The Brio condos, which are located at 15415 35th Avenue West, and it was apartment C106,
And what city is that?
Linwood.
Your Honor, at this time, I'm going to offer the second call on States Exhibit 16. Number one call.
You can have your luck with this one. This is still on Exhibit 16, same CD.
It is, Your Honor.
Steve like Charles. Are you there? Yes, Steve like Charles, what is it?
Yes,
Okay, what's your last name?
Pietz,
What is it?
1541.
What's your missing?
I didn't request a payment.
Okay, and where does the missing from?
15415.
What is it?
15415.
35th
35th Avenue West.
Okay, house or apartment?
Condo,
What unit number?
C106.
C like Charles, 106? Is that right? C like Charles? Are you there? Yes, C like Charles, 106?
Yes.
Okay, what's your last name?
Pietz.
And your first name?
Martin, M-A-R-T-I-N.
What's your callback number?
06 369 6037.
Okay, and who's with you?
Nicole Pietz, my wife.
Okay. How long have you gone?
The last time I talked to her was when we went to bed Friday night at midnight.
Okay.
When I noticed that she wasn't where she was supposed to be was we supposed to have dinner, 6 o'clock with her friends.
Okay. And you have no idea where she is? All right, we'll have an officer contact you.
Okay.
Near the condos?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
So, Sergeant Pinsky, you gave the address of where you responded. It was a condo complex, is that right?
That's correct.
And specifically, where did you go when you got there?
Well, it's 35th is the street that it basically addresses off. I pulled into the parking lot, and the buildings are lettered A through as far out as they go, maybe G or something. And I noticed the buildings were not marked, so I ended up making a phone call to the complainant to find out specifically which building he was in.
And then what happened when you did that?
While I was talking to him on the telephone, I noticed somebody walk out from an apartment or from a condo and start walking towards me, and I asked, did you just walk outside? I was told yes. I told him I'd meet him over where he was standing.
And who was it that you ended up speaking to?
It was a gentleman on the right end of the table, Martin Pietz.
Okay. And where were you guys? Were you near his condominium itself, or were you out in a more public area?
I parked my car basically next to the parking garage, which is on the, just into the parking lot from the front door to the condos. I parked pretty much right in front of the condo, the C building, and we spoke out on the sidewalk area.
And was the defendant by himself?
Yes, he was.
Were you by yourself?
Yes, I was.
Were you aware of whether another Snohomish County officer had done some kind of response on this call the day before?
I was not aware at that time.
What was your understanding of why you were responding to this location at that time?
To investigate a missing person.
And what's your general policy when you get a call like that to respond to?
At that time, it was to respond, and there was the potential that you could make a phone call depending on what the circumstance was. But generally, you responded in person.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you could just call the person, but usually you would go out in person.
Generally, you'd still go in person, but there was the option at that time to make a phone call.
And on this particular Sunday afternoon, was your plan to take an actual written report of some kind?
Yes, it was.
Let me just first ask, what was this defendant's demeanor like at the time you were talking to him?
He was very calm. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't crying. He was just a very calm state of personality.
And do you remember making a note of whether you felt like it was appropriate for the situation or not?
Yes, I did. It appeared appropriate under the circumstances. It wasn't unusual behavior for that kind of a situation.
Did you first just ask him to tell you verbally what the situation was?
Yes, I did.
And did you write down or make a note in some kind of report as to what he told you?
I did.
Did you take notes, like written notes at the time, and then transfer it to a report, or how do you generally do that?
Well, I basically just got the verbal account of what transpired. In this particular case, after obtaining the verbal account, I gave him, Mr. Pietz, a written statement so he could provide a written explanation of what was going, what had taken place.
I want to start first with, before the written statement, just with what he told you initially when you were talking to him. And please let me know if you do need to refer to report to get it right. Please let me know that.
Okay, will do.
Do you recall what he told you about the situation?
Yes, told me that the last time that he had seen his wife was around midnight. It was 12:05, I believe exact, on the 27th, which would have been 2 days prior to my response. She had been in their condo at that time, and that was the last time that he had seen her.
What else did he tell you about her?
He told me that she'd previously been addicted to prescription medications and alcohol, and that she, at some point during the conversation, he told me that she had attended AA meetings and had missed one that was scheduled for the 27th.
And did he say anything about the particular meeting she'd missed?
Yes, it was, well, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, the meeting that she had missed, it was in Renton, and it was to celebrate 8 years of sobriety.
And I'm sorry, your understanding or what you wrote was that that was supposed to take place on the 27th?
That's correct.
Did he tell you anything else about the schedule or when he'd last seen her?
I'd have to check my notes.
Go ahead, and I'm specifically asking, did he talk at all about his work hours versus her work hours in that situation?
They said they worked, he told me they worked differing hours, so it wasn't unusual for one to be sleeping and one to be going to work. They would basically pass each other sometimes.
And did he tell you that she had left the house when he got up? I mean, what did he say about that with the work hours?
Well,
Why don't you go ahead and look at your report? I want to make sure we get it accurate.
basically what I have in my report is that as far as just basically the last time he'd seen her was around midnight on the 27th, or 12:05 a.m. I'm not seeing anything that's other than that it wasn't unusual for them to be passing each other, one sleeping, one working.
And did he indicate it was normal for her to get up earlier than him?
I believe that is correct.
Did he say anything to you about whether he believed she was or was not using street drugs?
He told me that he did not believe that she was using street drugs.
Did he tell you anything during that part of the conversation about something he might have located in the apartment related to drugs?
Yes, he told me he found a recently filled Percocet container that was, as he found it, empty. It was supposed to have, I believe, 56 or something around there, 56 pills, and it was found empty.
Did he indicate whether he had tried to reach her at all?
Yes, that he had tried to call her and it went to voicemail.
Now, you said, was that the extent of what he said before you did a written statement with him?
I believe that was the crux of what I was told before I had him provide the written statement.
What's the purpose of having him write it down at that point?
It's to ensure that I've heard correctly, that I've remembered correctly, and if there's anything that needs to be filled in, he might remember, or the complainant might remember, and put it in the statement. It's just to basically get the most accurate report and information that you can.
So did you give him any particular instruction? For example, did you say, write what you just told me, or write what happened? What did you direct him to do?
Well, I can tell you what my general is.
Sure.
That I need basically from the beginning, something wasn't correct, till now, a written account of what's taken place, what you've learned, everything that's occurred between when something first seemed wrong or amiss till this point. Just basically a story from the beginning to the end.
And was it typical for you to have the person, the complainant, write it themselves?
That's correct.
And is that what you did here?
I did.
Wrote for you that afternoon?
Yes, it is.
And does that contain any right?
It's a little tricky to read. On Friday 1/27, when I came to bed, she was asleep already, period. I awoke. There's some kind of a squiggly, I believe it's at 8:20. I can't read what's after 8:20. Saturday 1/28, she was not at home. I was not worried at, it's either that or this point. There's a word I cannot read. It is normal for her to leave early on Saturday to meet with her sponsor slash sponsors before a 10:30 a. There's an A, I'm assuming it's AM, AA meeting in Renton, period. I left a message on her cell. There's a squiggly, I believe is at 1 p.m. Saturday. She was supposed to meet me at some friends for dinner at 6 p.m. She did not show. I came home at 7 p.m., found her not home. I found a RX prescription of Percocet on the bathroom counter, period. It says RX, prescription had been filled 126 with 56 tablets. Bottle was empty. I have contacted her AA sponsor. She did not go to her Saturday AM meeting. I could not, I believe it's, I could not find, or I can't read this word, any friends slash family who have spoken to her since Friday night. She has 8 years sobriety as of 1/36. I assume it's 2006. Her drug of choice is RX prescription painkillers plus alcohol. And it goes on to physical descriptors. 5'3" and a half, 125 pounds, light brown hair with blonde highlights, implants, large scar on right hip, tattoo of Asian, I can't read this word, on tailbone.
And
That's,
did you ask specifically for him to give a written description, physical description of her as well?
I don't recall if I did or not.
Did you continue to talk to him further after he completed the written statement?
I did, briefly.
Did he give you any information about her car?
He told me that her car, which was a Volkswagen Jetta, was not in their assigned parking garage. The car was gone.
Did he give you a license plate for the Jetta?
Yes, he did.
Do you recall what that was?
Not without looking at my
Why
statement.
don't you go ahead and refer to your report?
Counsel, we need to take an action.
Okay.